Lecture 7, Plagiarism and Paraphrasing, Cluster Social Science and Business Management. Um, this is what you will learn from the set of PowerPoint slides. You will know about plagiarism, and you will also learn how to paraphrase. Um, Referencing. Um, all postgraduate students, in fact, university students, all academic writing assignments, you need to know proper referencing. All right, you need to know proper in-text citation and end on of text citation. You need to know what MLA is, what APA is. All right. Why is referencing important? Referencing allows you to acknowledge the contribution of other writers and researchers in your work. Referencing is also a way to give credit to the writers from whom you have borrowed words and ideas. By citing the work of a particular scholar, you acknowledge and respect the intellectually property rights of that researcher. As a student or academic, you can draw on any of the millions of ideas, insights, and arguments published by other writers, many of whom have spent years researching and writing. All you need to do is to acknowledge their contribution to your assignment. uh, Sometimes people often students often ask me, I number one, I don't actually use I don't actually directly use their quotations. I don't exactly use exactly their word, but after reading the work I have a rough idea of what I want to do. So I don't think I need to cite, do I? The answer to that question is simple. If you have not read the articles, even general as an overview, would you have gotten the general picture? Would you have gotten the idea? The answer is no. So you should cite. Okay, so especially as a postgraduate students, the moment you start to decide, the moment you start to embark on your research, on day one, the first reading assignment that you have given yourself to do, or you have started reading your first article, you should already have a list of reference list somewhere typed up. So you keep on adding on the list, and you must acknowledge every single thing that you have read. Referencing is a way to provide evidence to support assertions and claims in your arguments. Yes, you have to. Without, if you just write what you feel and you don't cite people, you don't cite what the experts say in your field, chances are you would lose your strength of your argument. All right. By citing experts in your field, you are showing your marker that you are aware of the field in which you are operating. You are well read. You are telling the marker, telling your audience that you are a well read person. All right. Your citations map the space of your discipline, and the citation allow you to navigate, to steer your way through your chosen field. Okay, it is the same as how sailors steer their way. References should always be accurate, allowing your readers to track the sources of information you have used. The best way to make sure that you reference accurately is to keep a record of all the sources you use when reading and researching for an assignment. Keep a record, remember. All right, because a good academic writer will make sure that not only do they keep a record of their reference list, plus reading a lot, but they also make sure that whatever that they're going to mention in their chapters is going to tally with the references list that they have. All right. Plagiarism. Plagiarism means copying someone else's words of ideas and placing them as your own. Plagiarism is a serious offense. Many of us think that what we do is not plagiarism because we are not aware of the different forms of plagiarism. There are actually six types of plagiarism. There could be more, but I'm going to present to you six here. right? It's global plagiarism, paraphrasing plagiarism, verbatim plagiarism, mosaic plagiarism, self plagiarism, and incorrect citation. So the first one is global plagiarism. Global plagiarism means that you take an entire work of someone by someone and passing it as your own. If you get someone else to do your essay or assignment for you, or if you find a text online and submit it as your own work, you are clearly committing plagiarism. Global plagiarism is direct. I hope and I assume that many academic writers are not guilty of this because it's very obvious. All right. Next one is paraphrasing plagiarism. Paraphrasing plagiarism means rephrasing a piece of text in your own words. Paraphrasing without citation is the most common type of plagiarism. Paraphrasing itself is not plagiarism. It's good that you paraphrase as long as you properly cite your sources. However, paraphrasing becomes plagiarism when you read a source and then rewrite its key point as if they were your own. Um, Additionally, if you translate a piece of text from another language, you need to correctly cite the original source. A translation without a source is still plagiarism, as you are using somebody else's ideas. You are translating a language, and yes, true, let's say into English, where you can read and understand. Then you say, no, I wrote it on my own, I translate on my own, but it's still plagiarism if you do not cite the author of the original article. Okay. Example of paraphrasing. Let's look at an example of paraphrasing plagiarism, the incorrect version there. Okay, let's look at the original version by Cronin 1995. Go back 250 years in American and European history, and you do not find nearly so many people wandering around remote corners of the planet looking for what today we would call the wilderness experience. As late as the 18th century, the most common usage of the word wilderness in the English language referred to landscapes that generally carried adjectives far different from the ones they attract today. To be a wilderness then was to be deserted, savage, desolate, barren. In short, a waste. The worst nearest synonym in its connotations were anything but positive, and the emotion one was most likely to feel in its presence was bewilderment or terror. So that's the original article by Cronin 1995. So an incorrect way to paraphrase it, that yes, this person did paraphrase it, it's correct. You do not copy. So this person wrote back in another way. So before the 18th century, the word wilderness had very different associations than it does today. Far more from being tourist extraction, wilderness areas were considered bleak, barren places that inspired fear and confusion, landscapes to be avoided rather than actively sought out. So this incorrect version is actually paraphrased version. Although it's paraphrased, but it's still plagiarism. Why? Because the author did not cite. So you see on the correct version, the same paragraph, and there is a name at the end of it with the page. That's the proper way to paraphrase and to cite to avoid plagiarism. Next type of plagiarism. Next is verbatim plagiarism. This is actually copy and paste. All right. Copy and paste exactly the same. You commit verbatim plagiarism when you directly copy text from a source and place it on into your own document without attribution. If the structure and the majority of the words are the same as in the original, then it is verbatim plagiarism, even if you delete or change a couple of words here and there. If you want to use author's exact words, you need to quote the original source by putting the copied text in quotation marks and including in an in-text citation, all right, the author and the year. Copy and paste. Next one is students' favorite, mosaic type. When you cite incorrectly, that's plagiarism. So the key to avoiding plagiarism is to citing your sources. The need to correctly format your citation according to the rules of the citation style you are following. If you don't include all the necessary information or put it in the wrong place, you would still be committing plagiarism, although you attempted to acknowledge the writer. Most styles require in-text citation plus a reference list in text in your essay, and you need to have it in the list below. All right, and therefore that's what I always emphasize to my supervisors. The list need to tally. The list in the in-text citation and the reference list must tally, plus a reference list of bibliography at the end of the paper where you give full details of every source you cite. Example of a correct citation, for example, this is one example for APA for social sciences. um, the name and the year concluded that attitude can best be described as a learner manner of acting positively or negatively regarding a certain behavior. You need, in the very first place, to revise what APA format is and MBA format is, and know their differences and use the correct format when you are doing your work. Next one, plagiarizing your own work. This is self-plagiarism. Self-plagiarism means reusing your work that you've previously submitted, even though it's your work. It's considered dishonest to present a paper as brand new when you have already gotten credit for the work. There are a couple of different versions of self plagiarism. The more serious one is to turn a paper you already submitted for a grade to another class. Unless you have explicit permission to do so, this is always considered self plagiarism. So, how can you avoid plagiarism? Number one, you need to improve on your sentencing skills. All right. If your sentencing skills is very weak, you're very tempted to plagiarize because you don't know how to write it in another way. Use Turnitin or another plagiarism checker. They will give you a number. Normally for academic writing, maximum is 30. But I think postgraduates, it's lower than that. Check, okay, with your supervisors. Improve your citing and paraphrasing skills. All right, paraphrasing. There are the 4 R's of paraphrasing. Number one, reword. Can you replace any words with synonym? That's why it's good to have an app that allows you to check for synonyms very easily. Number two, R. Second R is rearrange. Can you move some words or phrases around? Three, realize. Realize that some information, names, dates that can't be changed. Leave it. Recheck. Did you include the important information and then does it make sense? Okay, that's the 4R tip. All right. All right. There are different levels of paraphrasing skills. Okay, different levels of paraphrasing while you read or you listen. Which one can you do? Let's look at the three. Number one, acknowledging paraphrase. In Bloom's term, it operates at the level of comprehension, reflecting understanding, not just a rote recitation back. Usually different words using different words to capture essence is critical, as the new word triggers the attention of the speaker, causes them to consider the meaning and accuracy of the paraphrase. This is actually acknowledging paraphrase is actually changing the form of the sentence, changing the structure of the sentence of the original article. So that's just acknowledging paraphrase. That's the lowest level of paraphrase. Then you have the second, organizing paraphrase. This is slightly higher level. As the reader reads the text, the reader is able to make a mental or written note of the organization. I like to make a mental note and scribble, do some mind maps of the organization of what was read. The reader can actually say there were three issues, but you see, the original article didn't mention three. But you finish reading the original article and you're able to make that out. All right, that's actually organizing paraphrase. That's good. Next stage is the another level up is abstracting paraphrase. Abstracting paraphrase infers meaning below the surface of what is said. A variety of inferences include listening for values, belief, intention, concepts, identity, and assumptions. This is the most sophisticated paraphrase level, as it is it likely causes a group of speaker to, or writer to think in a new way previously inaccessible to them. Um, uh, Better level of paraphrasing is you finish reading it, okay, fine, you can make uh, uh, short notes and categorize the things that you read, even if the categories were not given in the original article, but you went one step ahead. You actually analyze it, and you come up with new way of explaining things. You come up with a new understanding. You come up with a new way of seeing the particular topic that you have read. So that will be abstracting paraphrase. So there are three levels of paraphrase. Even the lowest level is fine as long as you don't copy word by word. Okay, why not? I'll now share with you some strategies for paraphrasing. All right. There are some strategies that you can use. Number one strategy, change a word from one part of text to another. All right. Medical professor John Swanson says that global changes are influencing the spread of disease. So one text to another. So you change the position of the word. According to John Swanson, a professor of medicine, changes across the globe are causing diseases to spread. At the end of it is the name, the year, the author, and the year. So this is changing a word. Next, use synonym. Synonym is very easy. You can get it online. All right. Original, for example, the US government declared that the AIDS crisis poses a national security threat. The announcement followed an intelligence report that found high rates of HIV infection that could lead to widespread political destabilization. The government of the United States announced that AIDS, okay, this one is using of synonym. The government of AIDS announced that AIDS could harm the nation's security. Okay, the original is poses a national security threat. So the paraphrase version is harm. The government warned the population after an important government study concluded that political problems could result from large numbers of people infected with HIV. Okay, so you actually find synonym words that could mean the same with many of the keywords used in the original text. Next one is number three, change numbers and percentages to different form. This can also be one way of paraphrasing. Minority groups in the United States have been hit hardest by the epidemic. African Americans, who made up 13% of the US population, accounted for 46% of the AIDS cases diagnosed in 1998. Okay, the paraphrase version is, okay, they changed the numbers. The AIDS epidemic has mostly affected minorities in the United States. For example, in 1998, all right, 1998, you can't change that. Less than 15%. Just now is 13%. So you change the form. Instead of writing 13%, you said less than 15%, which means almost the same of the total population, but almost half of the people diagnosed AIDS, diagnosed in the United States. 46% is almost half. All right, so this is changing the way the numbers are written. Next is changing the word order. This might include changing from active to passive voice or moving modifiers to different positions. Angier 2001 reported that this is the original article, original material, that malaria kills more than 1 million people annually, the overwhelming majority of them children in sub-Saharan Africa. That's the original one. The paraphrase version is every year more than 1 million people are killed by malaria. Okay? And most of the victims are children who live in sub-Saharan African Asia. So you actually change the position of the position of the voice. The one before is active voice. Angier reported that malaria kills. So the other one is a passive voice. Next strategy, Use different definition structure. The original example: Lyme disease is an inflammatory disease caused by a bacterium transmitted by ticks, small blood-sucking archons that attach themselves to larger animals. The disease is usually characterized by a rash followed by flu-like symptoms, including fever, joint pain, and headache. The paraphrase version is, this is the definition, change the definition structure. Lyme disease, dash, a disease that causes swelling and redness, is caused by a bacterium carried by small archon known as a tick. So you change the way it is being defined. The ticks attach to and suck the blood of animals, right? They use the information in the parentheses, right? Transferring some of the Lyme disease bacteria into their host and causing symptoms similar to the flu. Walt 2005. So that's another way. Next, use different attribution signals. Let's look at the original. That's because there are so many different ways the diseases could have arrived. Veterinarian Mark Walters declared in his recent book, Six Modern Plagues. According to Mark Walters, so you change the signals. A veterinarian who wrote Six Modern Plagues, there, you change the arrangement there. The disease could have carried in numerous ways. Okay. Next, change the sentence structure and use different connecting words. The original version is, although only about one-tenth of the world's population lives there, sub-Saharan Africa remains the hardest hit region, accounting for 72% of the people infected with HIV during 2000. That's the original one. Okay, now you want to change the sentence structure and use of different connecting words. Approximately 10% of the world's population resides in sub-Saharan African. All right. However, this area of the world has the highest percentage of AIDS-related diseases. The sentence structure, all right, they changed the way the sentence is written. In fact, in 2000, almost three-fourths, 72% there, of the population had the HIV virus. Banting, 2004. All right. So, what have you learned from this set of PowerPoint slides? You learn about how to avoid plagiarism. So, how do you avoid it? You avoid it by learning citation and referencing skills. You need to go online to check all the difference between APA, MLA. Okay, learn proper citation and referencing skill, and also you need to learn paraphrasing strategies. Use different forms in your writing. Okay? Good luck in your academic writing. Good luck in your thesis writing. Thank you for listening.